Hello, sir. How are you?
I am very, very well, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm good. How's your quarantine going? Have you left the house? Can you leave the house now at this point? What are your city's regulations?
The lockdown regulations here are starting to ease up a little bit. I think we've just announced that what we call non-essential shops can open, but restaurants and bars and pubs are not yet open, which in the UK is very, very sad.
They started opening restaurants here. I don't feel comfortable yet. I'm not going to do it. They just started opening gyms today. And my gym sent me an email saying, you don't have to wear a face mask at the gym. And I'm like, that doesn't sound right to me. So I think I'm not going to be the guinea pig. Not everyone else.
Yeah. I'm going to stick to my home workouts.
Yeah. So The Witcher.
Yes.
So what did you, okay, I'll admit until, I saw that you were in it and a Netflix announcement, I didn't know what The Witcher was. So what did you know about The Witcher? From what I understand, you've been a fan. Tell me all about
that. Yes, I've been a fan for quite a few years before it was announced because of the video games. I'm a big PC gamer and I had played the game multiple times. And then always while playing it, I imagined what it'd be like to make a movie or a TV show. And the CD Projekt Red who are the developers of the game, have done such a fantastic job of creating a world, which is stunningly beautiful, that it was always a challenge to try and imagine where I could find these places in the real world. And then the opportunity popped up. I heard about it going to Netflix, and I got my agents to hunt it down. And then I heard about the books, and so I read all the books, and I fell in love with the books just as much, if not more so, than the games, because Sapkowski is an extraordinary writer, and he has done an absolutely amazing job with building a world and creating extraordinary characters.
What is it about this world? What is it about these characters that resonate with you?
I'm a big fan of fantasy. I love the fantasy genre. I've been reading it since I was a kid. My dad was reading it to me before I could read. And this is just slightly different from your average fantasy genre. There's something a bit more grim about it. And I've been told that's the Polish way. And so it's a heavy Polish influence. And there's just a harder edge, which I found kind of fascinating. And the characters aren't necessarily in the same way that Game of Thrones was, you didn't know who was going to die. In The Witcher, you can't anticipate what's going to happen because it is quite a grim world.
So do you like being in a grim world like that? I mean, for sure, you don't smile much in the series, that's for sure.
No, Geralt doesn't smile much, not in the show. And when he does, even in the books, it's called a hideous smile. And it's not the world. I mean, I say grim, there is a real grimness to it, but there are moments of light and moments of care and loving and strong familial bonds for people who aren't actually family. And those moments seem all the brighter for the seeming darkness in the world surrounding.
So let's go back to this hideous smile. Like, did you think they were going to come to you with like these really bad dentures or something?
Well, I mean, this has been up for much discussion online, especially after I got cast. There's a lot of people saying it says he's hideous, or it says it's an ugly smile. I don't know what the direct translation is from Polish, but it's one of those things where I always saw it not necessarily as the person being hideous, but as the intent with the smile, or the what the smile was. There was something that the smile was trying to achieve that struck horror or made someone feel a certain way. And so that was the kind of thing which I was expecting to play around with. And I would have hoped they wouldn't have just given me a big set of dentures and stuff. That may have been a bit more distracting than a wig and contact lenses.
Well, that's my next question. The wig, the long wig.
Yes.
Uncomfortable. I imagine it's not so comfortable because it just gets hot and it's a wig.
It's honestly wasn't that bad. Jackie Rathor, who is my hairdresser, I've worked with on a couple of jobs now, and I'm now working on season 2 with as well. She is absolutely fantastic. And the wig, which she didn't have the opportunity to actually build the wig herself, and so when she received it, she started doing work on it, and she worked and worked and worked it. And it was quite a difficult process. She took that home every night, and there was 3 of them. So she would take 3 of them home every night and be changing individual hairs. She sent them back to get lace change for finer lace, so it was less visible. And she just worked and worked and worked that thing. She was having nightmares about the wigs. And I am enormously appreciative for her hard work, because there are points where it's the only point that's uncomfortable really is when you're first putting it on. And it was almost a joke between Jackie and I that she was deliberately stabbing me in the head and pretending that she wasn't doing it deliberately with the pins. At least I hope it was a joke. And yeah, it was. After that, it's on though. Once it's on, and it's just there. And the only thing which is uncomfortable is when people laugh at you for brushing your hair back like a boy, because it's not real hair, so it doesn't feel normal. So you just kind of had to brush it with a gloved hand, and it looks a little silly. But that's the only thing.
What was it like seeing yourself as Geralt for the first time in the full regalia?
It was, well, let me tell you this. The whole thing shifted a lot because we had screen tests, and the look of the character evolved throughout the first season as Jackie Rathor and Avril Lamas, who does my makeup, were working incredibly hard on the actual my face and face makeup, the eye contacts, the wig, and then the costume as we aged it, as it was more worn, as we went through a couple of iterations of trousers to begin with, because they initially had me in leather trousers, and these leather trousers, I mean, I'm designed in a certain way that things are forced into a stretched position. And so once that happens, the leather just didn't go back to how its natural shape. And so it ended up being a little bit saggy in places, which was not a great hero attractive look. And so eventually the costume evolved. The wig evolved, the makeup evolved. And once we had it nailed, once it was down pat, the experience in the morning, the 2 hours of hair and makeup and getting into costume was transformative. It was something which, by the time I was out of hair and makeup, my body language had changed. I was moving differently. I was talking differently, obviously, but not just the voice, which Geralt has, but the intonation changed. And my interaction with my dog even changed. He still saw me 100% as me. He didn't freak out at all or anything, but it just, the way I started interacting with the world changed a lot. And so I liked it. I really liked it. So once I saw myself in the full rig, it was a transformative experience. I really, really enjoyed it.
Let's talk about finding that voice, that very distinct voice that goes with the hideous smile. Tell me about how, the same with hair and makeup, you have to find a particular voice. So were you trying different voices? Were you recording on the phone and sending it to, producers, directors, saying, hey, is this the right way to do it? How did you find, because it just matches so well.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. When I first, when I auditioned for Lauren, after I'd first met her months before, auditioned for Lauren and Alec, who was the director of episodes, or the first block. And I asked if I said I had this idea in my head, which was in a way similar to what I'd heard in the games and Doug Cockle's performance, but I didn't want it to be identical. I didn't want to just take that performance and copy it. I also wanted it to be an English accent rather than American, and more of a gravel rather than a whisper, which is in the games. And so I asked, and I was initially told no. They said, no, we don't want you doing a voice. Lauren said, just do your own voice. And I said, okay. And so we started shooting with that, and it didn't quite feel right to me. Something didn't quite sit right. I wasn't too sure what it was. And so eventually, almost accidentally, and I really mean this accidentally, it started coming out in a scene. And I finished the scene. And I was like, I really like that scene. It felt really good. And I realized afterwards, when I was at home, and I started watching the rushes on Pix, and I thought, oh no, I did a voice. I did a voice for that whole scene. And so I then went into Alec and Lauren and I said, look, guys, I've done this thing. I know we've shot some stuff already without it, but I really like it. And I think it really brings something. And they said, you know what? Yep. Okay, let's go with it. And then we fixed some of the lines in ADR after that.
Let's talk about the stunt work. Obviously, you've done stunt work before. That's not something new to you. But this, again, you're in this full gear and these swords, and I don't even know what they're called. These knives and swords.
Yeah,
it's a whole other level. What kind of training do you do? And then, how much are you doing on your own? And how much are you getting hurt? I know these things are choreographed. I know you're not supposed to get hurt, but I imagine you went home a few nights and you're like, you know what? I need
well, I was obviously, for the physical aspect of the character, I was working with Dave Rienzi, my trainer, for both the aesthetic and what was required of me for stunts. And so it was a very grueling training regime when you add it to a TV schedule. TV schedule was hard enough as it is, and then you add an hour and a half of training every day, and it becomes a thing where you are chasing sleep for 6 days a week, and then Sunday is just a complete write-off because you're in bits, and then Monday you're up at 3 a.m. again, and you're just going. And so we did some sword training with Vladimir Furdik, and I'd done some swords before, but he got me back into my stride. And then they started doing a lot of the choreographing to one side, and I was working, I was shooting. And so because I was shooting so much, and I was in almost every day, there was no opportunity for me to actually learn these fights. And so they would send me a video, and I would try and learn the fight through this video, and then ultimately end up having to learn it either the morning of, during the rehearsals, or the night before, and then going in and going, right, okay, let's do it. The difference between that and the episode 1 fight was that there was a bit more time to prepare for that one. Wolfgang Stegemann came in, who's part of Eastwood Action Stunts, and he brought a specialized team in, and we worked together. Wolfgang and I have worked together before, and we speak each other's language. And so he knew exactly what I wanted to do with the scene. I knew exactly what he was capable of, and he knew that he could push me. And so he pushed and pushed and pushed to the absolute limit. And we got to choreograph the scene together. We got to tell the story together. We got to select the shots together. And it just became this incredible experience with him and his team. And then sometimes, if you compare that fight to the Mission Impossible Fallout fight in the bathroom, we spent, I think, a total of 4 weeks shooting the Fallout fight. 4 weeks. And we had to keep on coming back to it because there were some reshoots and everything. But we shot the whole Blaviken fight in episode 1, I believe, in 2 days, because we were just running out of time. And one of those, I think the third day, which we tried to shoot, it was, if there was a third day, I think there was, it was a downpour and our set was washing away. And so we literally couldn't shoot on it. And we just had to sit there and hope that this apocalyptic rain was going to stop, which had been going for like months at this stage. It was the most uncanny, unseasonal weather that we were having. And anyway, so got to the fight, we did it. And in that fight in particular, I was working with Lucy Cork. She's an absolutely exceptional stunt performer. And injuries happen. We had cuts all over our hands afterwards. because you do catch each other. It's when you're moving that fast. Even the trick is with a lot of these things, I mean, in a perfect world, you never touch skin. But with all the rehearsals and everything, you end up making contact with each other. But the real trick is pulling that contact before it does any real damage. So before you break a finger, before you break an arm, you realize a mistake has happened and you're pulling the hit. Or you slow it down enough so someone can duck out of the way and shout, "Cut!" But yeah, and otherwise, with all the other stunts with the wire rigs, some bruises here and there, some aches and pains, a couple of bashes, but nothing fatal.
When was the last time you had a project where you just didn't have to be in shape? And like, you'd be like, you know what? I just don't have to work out. I'm sure you love working out, but I'm sure there's also like, can I just go to sleep after we film instead of going to work out?
You know what? I've often thought this, and I don't really know what I want. Yes, being exhausted and not getting enough sleep for that length of period of time and having to change your body while doing or an already tiring job is very, very, very difficult. But I also like that there's that element to it. It really does get me into the gym and it pushes me. And one of the silver linings of this terrible pandemic that's going on is that I've had time. And so after the initial, I'm going to start drinking from noon thing and eating whatever I can lay my hands on, I started getting myself back into shape. And I'm going to try and make sure that I'm in a certain place before we restart shooting. So the pressure's off to change my body. And it's more about maintenance and doing shifts and nudges here. It's more like a sculpting thing rather than anything else. And that will alleviate some pressure and that will definitely help. But to answer your question, I kind of love it. I like it being that hard, but it's also exhausting. At the end of a shoot, you're completely physically exhausted and mentally exhausted. And so, but it's nice to do that. It's nice to work that hard for something, especially if you love it as much as I love the Witcher IP.
So season 2 production is going to start up soon, it sounds like, or
everyone hopes so, but we just don't know. We're just going to wait and see. Things are on track because there's no spike in cases in the UK, and so hopefully we'll be back on track and we'll be getting going soon-ish. I don't know any official dates, and I dare not say it, but yes, hopefully.
When will you feel safe to go back? I mean, everyone has their different levels of being comfortable. Obviously, we're just talking about the fight scenes, the contact. There's no social distancing there. When will you feel comfortable going back to set and saying, you know what, we could do this?
I mean, I've hung out the side of helicopters and been chased by Tom Cruise, so I'm pretty comfortable. I'm pretty comfortable with it. But it's very important that everyone is comfortable. I know they're working very hard to make sure that the right measures are in place, so bad things don't happen. It's a very serious virus, and precautions do have to be taken. At the moment, I mean, I feel totally comfortable, and we'll see. I mean, if someone comes onto set, and if Anya comes onto set, like coughing and sneezing and spluttering, and like, I've got to do a kissing scene, I may be like, maybe I'm not comfortable, but we'll have to see.
Now, I know you said you have not seen the Snyder Cut, but are you surprised one is coming?
I don't know if I'm surprised. With everything that's happened this year, with the lockdown and cinemas having to close and streaming services now being how we are getting our entertainment, it's not really a surprise. I think it's one of those things where it's an opportunity, and I think it's great that Zach has an opportunity to finally release his vision, and I think that's really important for a storyteller and a filmmaker. It's when that doesn't happen, it's always a sad occasion. And now Zach has the opportunity, and I'm excited to watch it.
Have you said to him, like, I really want this scene in there? I want that scene.
I mean, by the sounds of it, I think there'll be plenty of scenes in there.
And will you go back to playing Superman again? I know, like every day there, I Googled just literally right before we talked because I needed the latest rumor. It is just rumor after rumor after rumor. What's the wildest one you've heard about you and Superman?
Oh, I mean, they get wilder and wilder by the day. The amount of speculation, the stuff I read on the internet is extraordinary and sometimes frustrating. It's when you see people stating stuff as fact. You're like, no, that's not the case. That hasn't happened, and that conversation isn't happening. But the important thing is that people are excited about it. And I think it's important to be excited about a character like Superman. Superman's a fantastic character. And if people are chatting about it, and even if they're making stuff up, it's okay, because that means they want to see the character again. And in an ideal world, I would absolutely love to play the character again.
But do you ever go into like one of these conversations or comments, use an alias, and be like, "That's not happening"?
I've been very tempted. I'm not going to lie. I've been very tempted, but there's something about that feels deeply immoral. And when it's about Superman, and if I'm representing Superman, it just feels like the wrong thing to do. I'm like, I'm just going to let this all play out. Me saying something isn't going to make a difference. And what does it really matter? One day people know the truth. And even if they don't know it now, then it's okay.
Awesome. Sir, this was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.